you're an asset now, so we can always say, okay, now Aaron is ready. We can, deal with Aaron, and you'll know what to do for us. So that's the good thing. You already made your connections.
Yeah. I got plenty of connections, but I really got to start getting onto different um, non-real estate meetups. Be the only real estate guy in the room, and things like that to be that guy and to be on there and to just offer my expertise. Try to help people out and try to build relationships from there.
Hey, Claudia. Hey, Edmund.
Hey, and Edmund, I was on Brian's meetup yesterday. I was on Brian's podcast yesterday with the expert in new investor one. So of course I was a new investor one. So that was pretty cool. We had a good time.
Yeah, Brian's doing a lot of great stuff, and I just wanted to echo your point. I mean, you've come to a great conclusion where you start to get to the point where you amass enough information, and now it's time. I want to get out into meetups where I'm the only real estate guy in the room, right? Yeah. Because if you spend most of your time in meetups where everybody in the room is all talking about the same stuff, you don't really stand out all that much. But then look for things that are complementary. So look at rooms that your target market might be interested in. So things like estate planning, financial planning, all that type of stuff. And that's where the Wall Street Journal comes in handy, because when you have the Wall Street Journal, you can at least speak the same language, right? Yeah. So you're part of the quote unquote financial club, right? So if I say that, today, for instance, we've seen two downward markets in the past 2 days. I haven't really been watching to see what the Dow Jones has been doing today, but it was down like 170 or 475 points. It's a pretty downward move. It's all based on inflation. We saw a spike this morning in the Wall Street Journal that was a 4.6% spike in inflation, and that's up from 2.6. So that's a pretty heavy spike. And blah, 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 all this kind of stuff, right? So now you segue into it, and it's like, okay, Ed's part of the financial club because he spit out all the right stats, and it's all current. And then it's like, well, Ed, what do you feel? Like one guy's talking about, like I was in a clubhouse room. One guy was talking about energy. Energy's the new thing. And blah, blah, blah. It's like, I go, energy's been the old thing, right? Energy is like, remember 1980s Dallas? That was energy. That was all energy. All right. So people are talking about Bitcoin right now. And let's just take a look at the whole. And then they said, Ed, what do you think you should be investing in? I was like, well, I like private assets. I'm a private equity guy. I like real estate and private placements because nobody else can shift my asset class just by moving in and out of the position. You can do that with Bitcoin. You can do it with energy. In fact, energy is the one that people do it the most with, where they go in and they clip the returns or they clip the profits. You can't do that on a private asset. You got to be one of the LPs and there's no liquidity. So you got to be a long-term player. That's why I like private equity.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, one of the things I did years ago, even though I wasn't in your world, I would just have a station on the radio. So when I get in the car, it's automatically programmed, and it's Bloomberg. And I'm not doing it, but I hear certain things come across the wire all the time, companies, and then 2-3 days later, I hear it publicly. But just to hear that information come across the wire when I'm just driving and I'm having coffee going to work. So sometimes I'm not into the conversation, but it's still like in the atmosphere. So yeah, just to surround yourself with that. All financial channels and different things of that nature. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really good that you're doing it and having it in the background, because the more you listen to it, the more you start to pick up the tone and the lingo and the types of key wording that they use. So you can start talking like an economist. Like I'm not an economist. I didn't go to economic school. My bachelor's is actually bachelor's of fine art and theater, right? So I got a theater degree. But I just listen to Wall Street Journal, or I listen to financial news. I listen to BBC World Report. I just listen to so many economists, and eventually you know how to talk like they do. And then people say, like, Ed, you sound like an economist. Like, I've been listening to economists for 15 years. I better sound like an economist. I know how to copy what they're saying.
Yeah, I was listening to it's so many out there. Salente, there's another guy, Mark. It's a Mike Green, whatever. There's so many out there. It's just phenomenal, especially.
Yeah,
I definitely.
Desmond, I don't know your background too much, but Aaron and I are both ex-military, and that's one of the things that you pick up. They tell you the first time you show up in uniform, they say put on the uniform, but look to all the senior people, look to like the E3s, E5s, and copy how they walk, copy how they talk, and copy how they the dress and deportment, everything. And I did the same thing when I entered in financial services, right? Like if you show up and you got an ill-fitting suit and everybody else is wearing a three-piece suit, well, you better go to the tailor tomorrow and come back looking proper, right? Or else you're going to get singled out, and then start talking like everybody else and start acting like everybody else. And you blend right in.
What's funny is the connection with military. And I fell in love with the Norfolk, Suffolk, Virginia Beach area and Virginia Beach. And my realtor, her husband was a Navy, I forgot his levels of degree. He retired, passed on. But I've had a few military people. And so when I hear E1, E2, I was like, wait a minute, that means they just started, I think. You know, I recall, like, okay, they haven't had many years yet, you know, so the connection. So I have a fondness because I look at the Coast Guard, I look at the Navy. So I like that area because you got, you know, federal military money, but it's like I have a weak spot for that. Like I go to the Navy housing, and you know we post it. So I have a Navy guy in there now. I mean, I think it's a Navy or Coast Guard. So the connection is funny how things work. It's just funny how the universe works, man. And now I'm on Aaron's, who's a military guy. So it's like, wow, this is crazy.
I want to back up what Edmund was saying. I forgot the video, but I remember seeing it maybe 2 years ago. It's an old video, but it was people who was on an elevator, and everybody had their back turned. So it was a guy who came on there, and he was doing an experiment. The guy came on there and looked around, and everybody had their back turned looking at the paper. So he looked around, and he was like, and the elevator was going up, and he was like looking around. So eventually what he did was he turned his back to everybody and did the same thing. Then he did it again where people was kind of sideways and just looking at each other. So another person was looking around like, are you serious? Like, and eventually that person did the same thing. So if you can tailor yourself after what other people do, and that's why a lot of times when you're told in sales, if you go to somebody's house and somebody has an arm fold for your arms as well. If you go to somebody that have feet crossed, you cross your feet too because you align yourself with that person. So this is a little sales thing that I picked up, and I think Grant Cardone talks about it in his book as well.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna pick up one of his books. I just finished the Trump book, so I got this new one, Wealthy Gardener. And then I'll probably pick up a Cardone book. Probably pick up one of his.
Hey Ed, you know one person that I really like that I've been listening to this past week on podcast is Kim Lisa Taylor, Raising Money Legally. That's a really podcast. She's an attorney, SEC attorney, and she wrote a book as well, a really good book talking about raising capital as well. And I recommend it to anybody. Her product, I learned a lot. She had one guy on here. He was talking about, you know, and I don't know if you do it or not, but for people who do capital raising things like that, having your own portal so that you can put all the documentation in that person, because people love to brag about their deals and things like that. So if you have a portal that the person can put all the documentation in, things like that, that can make they want to be part of that, because now they can brag to their friends. I go to my phone and, oh, well, look at this right here. This is the deal I have. You know what I'm saying? So it's a way for you to connect with your investors, but also a way where your investors can brag about what they have, and people love to do that.
Yeah, I think I've heard of her. I've recently come across that title. I do want to give a point about Grant Cardone and a bit of a word of a caution. So I had worked for a client that was in the auto industry, and he was very keen on Grant Cardone. In fact, he subscribed to the full university, and he put us all through the full university. So I've gone through the whole university, beginning to front to back. And let me just tell you that my impression of what his style of sales is more transactional based. So I'm not saying it won't work. I'm just saying it works better in a transactional environment. Like if you're going to sell a car and never see that family again, right? So one of his books is something like Sell or Be Sold. And he said, well, when somebody walks into the dealership, somebody's going to be sold. Either they're going to sell you that they're not going to buy a car, or you're going to sell them that they're going to buy a car. So he pits the person that walks into the dealership as the enemy. It's like, who's going to win? Are they going to win, or are you going to win? Are you the winner, or are they the winner? Because somebody's going to be the winner. And I don't like that premise whatsoever. All right. Transactional based is something where you're consistently always turning over something and never seeing that family or developing that relationship. Financial services is completely different. I spent 15 years in financial services. So when I went through his program, I said back to my client, I said, okay, this will work in a transactional base. Grant claims that it will work in finance. I can tell you categorically it will not work, because there's a lot of buyer remorse when you sell or be sold, because you hard sell a lot of people. They have a little bit of buyer remorse, but it's too much of a pain to return the car. But when it comes to financial services, if you strong arm somebody and hard sell somebody, they're going to ask for their money back, and your rate of buyer's remorse is significantly higher. There's a quote that I live by, which is, you can make a sale and make a commission, or you can make a friend and make a fortune.
Make a
Grant
fortune.
Cardone is make a sale. I am relational. I'm relational sales, which takes longer, but you can make a fortune. My substitute for Grant Cardone would be Zig Ziglar. So read a lot of Zig Ziglar stuff and you'll start to get the right idea. That's my idea.
Ed, I was trying to remember which book it was. I just saw what you were saying. I think it was The Who Not What by Dan Sullivan here. And he was talking about the difference between transactional and transformational. And what you were saying about making a connection and a bond, that person will come back and they also will refer you, Aaron, to other people, because you're transformational. I think you gotta show them all the possibilities why it's good to make the deal, and not that you're just gonna win. And then all of a sudden they get more out of it, where they see more opportunities even to exit or options. And so once that becomes transformational, they see it differently as you just won and they got the physical property. So yeah, it's transformation. I noticed was transactional and then transformational, and it was saying being transformational is a little bit more helpful to the seller and the buyer, as like he said, you gain a partnership almost.
Yeah, and it's very expensive to keep turning over your client list. So if you're in real estate and you sell one family, but you use the Grant Cardone method and you really just hard sold them, they will get into one of your deals, and then in 3 to 5 years when you liquidate, they won't come back. They may just, like, your worst case is that they'll just say, you know what, can you not cash that check and we want our money back, right? And if they do stick around for 3 to 5 years, they're not going to come back and roll the money. They're going to take the money and move somewhere else. They certainly won't be referring you. I built my business on rolling money and referrals. In fact, after rolling money, they add in more because I created a relationship. I got to the point after 15 years, I got as far as 3 generations. So I could tell somebody, it's like, hey, this is what your grandfather told me when I was a young advisor. And now I'm with that family for 3 generations. That becomes easier. That's the kind of relationship that you want to have when you're selling real estate and investments, getting into the investment world. You want to be with a family and grow with a family.
So cool. That is cool.
Claudia, how you doing? What's going on with you?
Not much. Just glad to be here. But I think you made a point, Aaron, about like that elevator. There was I saw it somewhere else. I think in YouTube too. Scenario where there's like a waiting area, like either I don't know, like a dental or a clinic somewhere, and there's a beeping sound, and every like beeping sound, people stand up and they sit down, and the room is set up already. People who are in on it, and then this like girl comes in, and she sits and sees everybody else, sitting up and sitting down. Like every time there's like a beep, and she's like doesn't know what it is. So eventually, like most people who go into the room, not being part of the group, when they see everybody else like this standing up, when there's a beep, and then sitting down, standing up, they do the same. They'll stand up, and then sit down, stand up, and just they don't know why they're doing it, but just because everybody else is doing it. I don't know. Did you guys see that? It's really interesting because I think there are things I was listening to a book yesterday, and they were saying that humans have mirror neurons. So we're like, it's integral to like human beings, where we like people, or we relate to people who like act like us, or you can relate to people if you like mirror them, like if you do what they do, like if you that's what we have empathy. Because when people, like if you're talking to somebody who's emotional and crying, and you interact with them, you get emotional, you get sad, because we have like mirror neurons in our brains, which is like integral to humans, and we just like reciprocate. So that's so interesting. I think that's, you made a really good point, interesting point, that it's just in our nature and it's how
Yeah, a
we
lot
are
of people
made.
don't want to be. They don't want to be left out either, because when I used to do parties and I've given out thousands of flyers, and you might get 2% of the people that's interested. And I said, why everybody? He said, people want to take the flyers because they don't want to be left out. They'll take it, look at the information, just so they can have it. They won't act for it, you know. So it is true. They want to be part of something.
Hey, I want to say this too on here, that I had to apologize to everybody. I did not get a hold of our guest speaker like I should this week, so I apologize to you. Now he is here, but I had to apologize to Robert, because usually I do send an email or message them during the week just to check in and things like that. So Robert, if you are on, sir, welcome, and it's good to see you.
Hey, it's great to be here. Great to share some insights, some information. Did we set up a topic that I'm supposed to talk about?
Just mindset.
No problem. I mean, mindset's everything.
Right.
It really is. And you know, once you come to the realization, and we all come to different realizations, and where that happened for myself is, and I'll show you how far back it was, and I'll tell you why it's important, is I came across a Wayne Dyer cassette called No Limit Person. So that gives you an idea of how far back that was. But see, where that was significant is I came to the realization that the limits that existed in my life, I was responsible for those being there. And that was the key thing, because it's really simple to blame or to, a situation, a circumstance, whatever you're dealing with. It's easy to blame. And so that's why mindset, it's like once I came to that realization, where that shifted me is I started on that mindset learning curve. And I started to find the right information. There's an old saying, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. Originally, I had indirect mentors. And ultimately, meaning I was listening to CDs, reading books, because it shifted everything. But everything starts with your mindset. And it really, even when, even when negative things happen, it was like one of the things that I came across early on was a book called by Dr. Robert Anthony. And it's called Beyond Positive Thinking. And you can actually get this for free if you go to YouTube and just, Google it, Dr. Robert Anthony. And it's called Beyond Positive Thinking. And here's a clue. Joe Vitale, as he gets to read the forward to that book, he said, when I started, this book was very instrumental in my success. And when I started way back 35 plus years ago, that was instrumental. That's a clue. I took to heart a lot of the things, the insights, the philosophies that I came across, because again, the reality is, as we go through life, we get hit with curveballs. Things happen that we don't see. And, a pandemic, it's like, how did you shift? How did you pivot? Myself personally, I look at myself as a professional networker. I've been networking for 35 plus years. I'm what you call psychologically unemployable, but a lot of that's your mindset. And it's realizing I can position myself in the mind of the person I'm speaking with, however I want to position myself. But, the more that you search for those key things, the insights, I mean, that's where it started with myself. The more that you search, you're going to find the right things, and you're going to continually take a look at or listen to what other people tell you, and you test it out, you modify it. But the key in everything that we all do as entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, it's the connections and developing the right relationships. But I mean, I can continually talk. I mean, if you tell me if you want me to speak for another 5 minutes, whatever, happy to share perspectives.
So let's me and you do a quick Q&A session, and then open
Sure.
else to to ask you questions. And I appreciate you coming on short notice to be on here. So I mean, I talk about myself. Some days it's good days. I'm energized. I'm ready to roll. I'm ready to knock stuff out. And then the hustle and bustle of the day kind of just sets me back. And then by nightfall, it's time to go to bed. Man, I've only accomplished maybe 3 or 4 goals, but there's more goals for me to achieve. How do you go about your day? I mean, I know a lot of it's time management and things like that, but what is your mindset when you first wake up during the daytime and knowing you have to accomplish certain goals throughout the day?
Well, part of my certain goals, and it all started off back with I started looking at meeting people online, getting them offline. That was before the pandemic. Now the pandemic happened, and as a networker, I could send you a list of different networking opportunities. That's the opportunity to meet people. So as that relates to how my days go, I personally set out to achieve going to maybe like 5 networking events during the week. From that, and if I do that consistently, I know that that's going to net me probably about 7 to 10 one-on-ones, the opportunity to speak to somebody. Because my whole objective, my whole strategy, beyond the people that I'm already working with, because I think you've got to do 2 things in any, for every person that's a business person. You want to go wide and you want to go deep. Meaning you've got to be continually adding some new business, but you've got to take care of your current customers in whatever you're doing. So, and that could be just a reach out and just to check in with somebody if you haven't talked to them for a long time. Again, this depends upon what you're doing, but to me, I don't have the luxury of slacking off. I mean, sometimes life gets in its way, and I put that in its perspective. Meaning, I realize as a mentor, everything that's happening to me is happening for a reason, because I'm going to be mentoring other people. So when life gets in the way, look at it as an opportunity to reflect on why are you allowing some of these outside things to stop you from accomplishing the level that you want to accomplish.
Right. Okay. And so for you, is there a certain, when you said that, you've been on 5 meetups during the week and things like that, is there a certain objective for you when you're on these meetups to meet how many people? That's the next question I'm gonna ask. Let me ask you about follow-up.
Sure.
How do you follow up with people? Because that's something that I struggle with, that I need to do better. How do you follow up? How do you have a system in place that you do to follow up with people who haven't talked to you in a long period of time?
That I haven't talked to in a long period of time, or that I'm in the process of implementing as we're talking today, and knowing where I'm weak and what I've got to change is, I mean, to me, it's easier to follow up, but what I think people need to take a look at, and one that I've heard that's supposed to be very easy to operate as a CRM. Insightly's for free. You go to insightly.com. To me, success as an entrepreneur is how we can balance utilizing technology effectively to follow up with people. You want to systematize as much as possible, but you need to balance keeping some of the human aspects into what we do as in the networking business.
Right. I mean, I'm gonna use somebody on here who just got on here, like Julianne
Okay.
came on here. She has so many connections with people, but it takes time to do something like that. So, I mean, is there a method that you do? And I mean, I know CRM. Do you use CRMs to make sure, okay, these are the people in Florida, these are people in Colorado, so that you have a system in place so that if somebody needs a resource, you can easily just reach out to certain people?
I mean, that's how I'm looking at that. That's part of where I'm looking at modifying. That's an area where I know I'm weak.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at implementing more into the CRM. So when I'm talking to somebody, I'm able to extract more information and can set some kind of a follow-up process accordingly.
Makes sense.
I try to make as strong of a first impression as possible. We've all got our own methodologies of how we operate. And again, I'm just telling you what I do. And so I want to make a strong and first impression and then leave it open for whoever wants to get back to me. Because again, to me, this, as a successful business person, it's really should be about how we help other people.
Right.
So I always leave the door open. I always try to do whatever I can to help those that I connect with, because it's the right thing to do.
Are you still striving to go outside your limits? What I mean is not the regular meetups that you go to regularly. Are you still trying to go to different meetups and meet different people? Or are you settled in your own?
Yeah, it's a combination of a couple of different things of why I'm doing what I'm doing. Number one, I can't teach others to do what I'm not doing.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm gonna understand what's really working in the marketplace, I need to keep myself active in the marketplace. So that's one thing. Second of all, I'm out there to realistically, truly try to help other people where I can do that. I'm just grateful that I've got different leveraged business models and affiliate models that I make money on. So I don't have to worry about how I'm going to make money tomorrow to pay tomorrow's bills.
Right.
I've been doing it a long time.
Right. Okay. Before I open up to the attendees here, it's two more questions for you. So as somebody who, going back to the mindset, is there a certain mindset that you have for your week? So I understand you talk about daily, but is there a certain weekly mindset that has to be done for you to feel like you've been productive during the week, or it's just every week is different?
It's different. I try to self-evaluate. Am I really doing the activities that I can meet new people, be it if it's on the different networking Zoom calls to what's the name of it? I'm sorry, the real famous one, which I've been on a lot. So I mean, it's doing activities. Are you really, we all need to self-evaluate. How many people did you really connect with? How many people are you furthering relationships with? Those are my overall goals every week, and I want to self-evaluate.
Right. Okay. And then the final question before we open up for attendees to answer, what, for somebody like myself who I got to meet more people, that's the name of the game for me. What's a foundational piece you think that somebody starting off trying to network more and meet more people and build relationships is one necessity they have to do?
Connect with people. You've got to be out there. developing new relationships, looking at how you can be of value to people real quickly. You know, there's different ways that I do it. I've gathered a list of networking groups. That's one way that I do it. I mean, if I've got the right connection for the other person, that's another way. That's why the art of networking, what you're trying to really do is get to know the other person to see if you can figure out how you might be able to guide them, connect them to somebody that would be appropriate to that person. So, you know, it's like, what is your real objective? And to me, it's to be of value to people.
Right. Okay. Well, man, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, man. You really helped me out a couple ways, and I'm going to watch the replay of this right here. So thanks, Robert. Anybody have any questions for Robert? I can ask questions all day. Claudia?
Yes, I tried to look up the name of the book that you mentioned, Beyond Positive Thinking, on my app. I have like this audiobook app, and one comes up by Jim Collins. Does that sound familiar to you?
Well, I know Jim Collins. I said Beyond Positive Thinking by Dr. Robert Anthony. Beyond Positive Thinking. Dr. Robert Anthony.
And it has Beyond, but and it spells Collins. So maybe this is the wrong book.
Yeah.
That's probably the wrong book. Okay.
Yeah. You want go in YouTube, put Dr. Robert Anthony.
Okay, in YouTube, you didn't mention it's free. That's
go
awesome.
to YouTube, go to put Dr. Robert Anthony. And you got Joe Vitale reading it. It's got a purple background of the book.
Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah, so I think this topic is very interesting because they talk about mindset, and as far as like one thing we were talking about yesterday, actually in at the clubhouse, was, you know, helping veterans like learn more about like real estate and investing. But we were saying a lot of it is also mindset and having that ability to right, because it can be challenging and overcome obstacles. So, and you mentioned about being positive, right? So being positive, being one of the pillars of like being able to overcome obstacles. Is that what you would recommend? Just being more positive, or how would you approach overcoming obstacles?
Well, first of all, are those obstacles repeating in your life? Is there a pattern of the obstacles repeating? And then if it is, you've got to self-evaluate. I mean, we all have to get through different obstacles, you know, to be successful. I mean, it's like, you've got to take a look at, what did I learn from that obstacle? You know, one of the things that Dr. Robert Anthony said early on in his book, he said, we all have certain lessons to learn. Life will continually trip you up in the lesson you're supposed to learn. So it's like, when something happens, it's like how you view that. Do you view that as a learning experience, that it's just a stepping stone to get where you want to go? So it's how you view the things that happen to you, and how you use the learning curve in a way that makes sure that you get where you want to be. Yeah, I mean, failure was not an option in the things that you're looking to do. So it's like, we got to zig and zag to get to success at some level. You've got to make modifications when necessary. That's my best explanation.
Anybody else got a question for him? This is good stuff. Ed, Emily, Julianne, anybody got a question for him?
Robert,
you,
I guess my question is, I see on our LinkedIn we've got a lot of mutual connections, and most of them are here in Toronto. Are you? You're either very well connected and your reach goes all the way up to here in Toronto, or you're originally from here, or you spent some time here.
Yeah, I mean, I've been there. I've spoken there, I think, once over the years. But as a networker, well, originally I came from Minnesota, went from Minnesota to Arizona to where I'm now in the wine country. But again, I've got a lot of, I mean, I do have network, I'm involved with different networking groups that goes throughout Canada.
Excellent.
What's up, James? Good to see you, man. You got any questions for Robert?
Thank you so much, Robert. One question I had was, when you do get into maybe a low where you might be, it might not be going your way for that moment, do you have a person or something you do to reach out to, or you do a routine or something sometimes? Or you just call up somebody and ask how they're doing and think about wonder how they're doing instead of worrying about yourself sometimes?
You know, you guys are hitting some really deep questions. I mean, personally, yeah, I don't look at the fact of slumps. I mean, I don't look at the fact of lows. I just look at everything as a process. You know, the process that people go through. I mean, if you're any kind of direct marketing business, it's about attracting new people. So it's again, I self-evaluate. You know, how am I doing in the activities? You know, I take a look at, I came up with an acronym for pitch, PITCH, you know, because people don't want to feel like you're pitching to them, but you're pitching to them, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
And so the P is practice and perfect your presentation. Basically, always know your opening, know your close. In between there, you got flexibility. You need to segue. You need to be able to segue into it at the right time in your pitch. The I is your intention. You know, when you're in like a breakout session, your intention is to say things that will attract other people saying, I want to get to know that other person. Listen to what the other people are talking about and seeing if you've got some kind of an appropriate connection for the person. C is clarity in your messaging. I'm sorry, there's a T in there. T comes before that. Think about who you're speaking with. You know, make sure you've hopefully gathered enough facts from your communication, but think about who you're speaking with as you're in a pitch. C is clarity in your messaging. And H is how and why they want to get back to you. So anyhow, that's what I try to focus on, you know, is just being there to connect with people and figure out how I can be of value and service as quick as possible.
Thank you.
James, you got a question for him?
Hey folks, how are you? I came in a little bit late, unfortunately, so I didn't catch the beginning, but from what I'm listening and picking up from the conversation, I do have a question. It's, I guess, about communicating with new people that I'm meeting. I sent out responded to about 30 LinkedIn connection requests Tuesday, and surprisingly, I included my Calendly link in there, and surprisingly, I got a number of booked appointments. So I actually had my first one-on-one today with a young lady from Texas who's a ground-up developer with off market deals. So that was a nice connection. Just my pitch, and listening to how you did the anagram for pitch. Um, just I'm not getting my point across. I'm not, how do I, start the conversation? This is all kind of new. So starting conversation with new potential investors, brokers, I know what value do I bring and how can I help the person, but how do you suggest, starting a conversation with someone who, and someone I'm just meeting for the first time who reached out to me, obviously is, was, liked what they saw on my profile, but how do I, presenting that, presenting it confidently and, like that, was there a question in there? I mean, just,
How would I start a pitch in that area?
yeah, I mean, we got on, hi, how are you? She booked a call with me, or the people are booking a call with me. So how am I opening that conversation?
I would start off, first of all, I'm really great to connect with you. And I'm looking forward to finding out what attracted you to my profile. That would be my question to the person. I mean, if I would want to know what attracted me, the more you can put the ball back into their court, the more you can get them asking questions, or that you can ask them questions. That way you can segue into, you're extracting information so you can segue into your pitch.
Okay. I guess in that case, the ball is kind of in my court since they booked with me.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. What's going on? I mean, again, part of it, you can control how you position yourself. You can always say I'm a networker and I'm a connector. You're looking to extract information to find out about the other person, because you might, as a networker, you don't know who you might talk to next.
Right.
So you can control how to move the conversation.
Right. Okay. And it's something Edmund had mentioned, he was speaking a week ago about it. Everybody has their own insecurities, whether it be the guy with $1 million, the guy with $5 million, is guy with $100 million. They all are insecure about something. So just to maintain your confidence in a conversation.
Yeah. Think about your objective. Think about what, if you understand the purpose and your objective, it's figuring out, are they the right fit? Are they the right match? If they're not, maybe they'll be an affiliate. Maybe they'll be able to guide you to people because you're able to cross refer, whatever the case is.
Okay. Thank you.
Robert, how powerful is it telling stories to people, telling your story to people?
When appropriate, it's great. I mean, but you've got to have modifications of your story. You don't need to go into the full elaborate. I mean, you've got to use common sense. If you figure you've got a 10-minute time to talk, you better condense your story just so you get credibility. Again, you've got to realize who you're speaking in front of, and you've got to be able to give yourself credibility without being braggadocious, so to speak. But as a successful entrepreneur, as an elite entrepreneur, you can do it in a couple words and then go on. What inspires me is to being able to help other people, other entrepreneurs recognize sometimes limitation, whatever your what you're looking to solve in the mind of the other person. So you can real quickly position yourself and segue into how you look at solving other people's problems. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Marcus or Mr. International, if he's on here, Gwen, or my good friend Julianne Pearson. You guys have any questions for Robert?
Hi everybody, how's everybody doing? I have no questions. I just been listening. I got cut off 3 times. I'm a little peeved off right now, but that's okay. I'll get over it. Thank you, Robert, for the parts I heard. That last part you just said, thank you very much. That's the part sometimes you want to tell your story, but like you said something real good there. Be succinct in what you're saying and keep it brief. And I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
Julianne, you got a question for him? No? Okay.
No. Very interesting information. I like it. And it's very nice to see everybody here. Lawrence, I missed you all week.
I know what? I didn't know the participants. Julie and Peter, how you doing, Julie?
Missed you this week, man.
Let me. I'm gonna connect you to them. I'm gonna call you tomorrow.
I love it.
He's a retired man now. He's on a cruise
I
ship
know.
right now. That's why
Oh,
he
he's
was
on a
feeding
cruise
for week.
ship?
No.
Okay.
he's traveling the world now,
Julie
Julian.
was
Come
about
on, the
to-
man's
Julie
been
was
working
about-
all
Julie
his
was
life.
about to
Give him a
lose her
break.
mind. He's on a cruise ship? What?
So Robert, this is your insight. Mr. Lawrence Laddie right there. He retired after 40 years of working in New York Transit. So he retired this past Friday. So but his nickname is Mr. International. So that's what we're talking about, the cruise ship right there. He should be going abroad pretty soon, going somewhere. But yeah, I mean, if anybody has any more questions, I'm not gonna keep you long, Robert. I just want to say thank you so much. We definitely ought to connect and talk some more, me and you. And I just want to tell you a couple of things that I'm doing and I'm trying to get into, and see if I can be a service to you and we can help each other out. So I definitely hit you up on LinkedIn and set up a call with you. But if anybody has any more questions, I'll let Mr. Robert go. We're gonna. We probably won't do breakout rooms, anything like that today. We'll just probably have a round table. This is, especially with a smaller group. I think this probably be the best, what we did before. So if, Robert, you're free to stay if you want to, but man, thank you so much. I know, like I said,
Take care.
I did a job and that communicate with you a little bit better. All right, so look, like I said, we'll have a big group today. I'm not going to do breakout rooms. I just want to have a round table. I know some people probably want to come for the after party. That's how it is now, Julie. Some people just come for the after party now. So I'm going to just stop recording now. And we're just